Welcome back. The madness continues because Redfin just announced on Thursday that home sold prices just reached a new all-time record high despite 7% mortgage rates. However, there's some early signs that home buying demand may be decreasing due to the fact that pending home sales have decreased compared to 1 year ago. And on top of that, they're at least a 3-year low during the same time frame. In contrast, we're seeing more houses being listed for sale, so new listings rising, yet contracts being signed between buyers and sellers actually decreasing, and of course the share of price reductions absolutely skyrocketing as well. Some very interesting dynamics happening right now in our US housing market. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I have a lot to share. This was just posted on Thursday, May 23rd. It says the median US home sold price hit a new all-time record high of $387,600 during the 4 weeks ended May 19th. That's up by 4% from 12 months ago. High housing costs push pending home sales down 4.2%. This is a measure of people getting their offers accepted by home sellers, falling by 4.2% year over year. That was the biggest year-over-year decrease in 3 months, except for the prior 4-week period when sales decreased by 4.4%. Let's talk about some more leading indications of home buying demand and our housing market in general. Then we'll talk about home prices, inventory levels, and a lot more in today's video. So looking at daily rates, let me just share today's rates, which is Thursday. Average 30-year fix for people with great credit, buying their first house, a house they plan to live in, not an investment property, and their FICO score is 780. They're also putting down 25%. So these are basically the best average rates nationwide as of Thursday. That's at 7.17%. Jumbo at 7.42%. FHA and VA loans is around 6.7 to 6.74%. Also looking at the past several years, or 1 year I should say, looking at the Mortgage News Daily, 1 year ago, the average rate was at 7.01%. So rates have increased by only 16 basis points compared to 12 months ago. They have been going up ever since really the start of the year. So to start the year, we were at 6.7%. Now we're at approximately or just under 7.2%. So rates have been coming up, but last week they actually came down. But again, this week, starting to trend upward once again. So very volatile to say the least, let's just say that. When looking at weekly rates, according to Freddie Mac, as of today, which is May 23rd, they reported the average 30-year fix, again, for people with great credit, at 6.94%. 1 week ago, we were at 7.02%. 1 year ago, just over 6.5%. So rates are still elevated compared to the previous year. So in any case, going back to Redfin's report, let's talk about application numbers. These are people who are submitting mortgage loan applications to buy houses. That decreased by 1% compared to the previous week. It's also down by 11% from 12 months ago. That's based on data from the MBA. And here's a snapshot looking at that. This is on investing.com, by the way. The index, the purchase index is at 140. The previous reading 1 week ago was at 141.7. So big picture, a high number means a lot of people are submitting loan applications to buy houses. And of course, a low number means just the opposite. Now here's a look at their purchase index over the past 1 year. It has been relatively flat really all year. To start the year, which was right about there, we were at 140.7. So more or less flat compared to the start this year, which is unusual because during the spring home buying season, we see more people submitting loan applications, whereas this year it has been more or less trending downwards slightly ever since March this year. On top of that, the current reading at 140 is actually the lowest reading going back to April 10th this year. So even though we're in the heart of this spring home buying season, we're more or less at a 1 month low regarding application numbers on a national level. And by the way, here's a chart looking over the past 5 years. And you see here when their housing market was just absolutely on fire in 2021 and 2022. The index was at 300 back in December of 2021. Back in January of 2021, the index was at 314. Now it's only 140. Has been coming down greatly ever since the early parts of 2022. Lastly, one more thing I do want to mention is that during COVID lockdowns, which was back in April 2020, myself as a real estate agent in Sacramento, I wasn't even able to meet my clients face to face. We were forced to have stay-at-home orders for about 1 month. And it took another month for agents to have the ability to show houses to our clients. But despite that, during that time, the index was at 185.9. So pretty wild to see that the index right now, 140, is less than when we had COVID lockdowns during April of 2020. In any case, let's get back to Redfin's report. Let's talk about their index, or their home buyer demand index. This index is a measure of requests for tours or home tours by buyers and other home buying services from Redfin agents. And again, we're in the heart of spring home buying season, but it's unchanged from 1 month ago and down 11% year over year. Touring activity. This is based on data from showingtime.com. So the amount of real estate showings, according to showingtime.com in North America, is up by 31% compared to the start this year. At this time last year, we were up by 22% compared to the start of 2023. Google searches for homes for sale, were down 8% from a month ago and down 18% from 12 months ago. So overall, lead indications are showing that we have a low level of activity for home buyers. Google searches for houses for sale are down. Redfin's getting fewer requests for home tour services, and we're seeing a decrease of applications as well, down 11% year over year. All right, let's change gears slightly here and talk about home prices, asking prices, and mortgage payments. So the median sale price increased to $387,600. That's up by 4% year over year. That's a new all-time record high based on data from Redfin. By the way, their weekly data covers 400 plus US metros, and their data goes back through 2015. It is subject to revision though. And this is for the 4 weeks ended May 19th this year. We are also seeing asking prices surging as well to $420,000, up by 6.6% year over year. That is also a new all-time record high. Let's take a look at the metros as well. So when looking at home prices, that increased the most in Anaheim, California, up by 20.1% year over year. After that was Detroit, San Jose, Oakland, and West Palm Beach, Florida. Anaheim, California, and Detroit have been in the top 5 for quite some time. In contrast, the biggest decreases, or in fact, there's only 2 out of the 50 most populous metros that are down year over year. That's San Antonio, Texas, down 1%, and Fort Worth, Texas, down by 0.6%. I would not be surprised to see Austin, Texas, and other metros in Florida going down on a year-over-year basis here in the next coming months because of inventory absolutely skyrocketing in those areas. But again, I'll keep you posted regarding that. Let's look at Redfin's data center regarding overall on a national level, what's happening right now regarding the median sale price. Right now it's at $388,000. The peak in 2022 was at $383,000. So quite a bit higher compared to 2022, which is pretty mind-blowing, but only up by 4% year over year. At this time last year, we were down by 2%. Now it's up by 4%. This is quite the volatility to say the least. 2022, up by 16% at this time then. And on top of that, 2021 up by a whopping 23%. So quite the volatility to say the least in the US. Let's also discuss the average monthly housing payment that increased to $2,854 per month at the current 7.02% rate. That was actually the weekly rate according to Freddie Mac last week. And again, like I shared, that actually decreased below 7% this week. In any case, that is an increase of 10.5% year over year. and only $18 shy per month of the all-time record highs that was set during the 4 weeks ended April 28th this year. Let's take a look at that over the past few years. I really wish Redfin would provide data going back to 2019 in their weekly updates, but here's what they have to say here. It goes back to 2021. So the average monthly housing payments, again, surging, which is pretty wild because look at this. The average rate, 7%. In late October of 2023, which is right about right there, the average rate, 8%. So we're seeing sky high housing payments, not only due to elevated rates, even though they're 1 percentage points less than October last year, but this is really, in my personal opinion, due to the rise in home prices than anything else. What also really stands out to me as well is that we're basically just under $2,900 to buy an average price home today. Compare that to this time in 2021. You're looking at an average housing payment of around $1,600 per month. Now it's approaching $3,000 a month. I mean, can you say our housing market is, unaffordable to say the least? Okay, let's change gears slightly here and talk about pending home sales, active listings, and new listings. So pending sales, a measure of contracts being signed between buyers and sellers, that decreased by 4.2%. In contrast, new listings increased by 8.5%. So even though there's 8.5% more newly listed houses, more new listings, pending home sales decreased by 4.2%. This is exactly what we've been talking about for a month now. Contracts being signed, the demand side is actually decreasing, whereas new listings, supply side, is actually increasing. So we're seeing supply outpace demand based on the year-over-year changes here. On top of that, active listings rose by 14.8% year over year. Going back to Redfin's data center, so pending home sales fell 4.2% year over year. But on top of that, we're at least a 3-year high during the same time frame. So pending sales decreasing, whereas new listings up by 8.5%, even though they still are below 2021 and 2022's levels. Let's also have a look at active listings, which is housing supply, the amount of houses for sale nationwide. That is up by about 15% year over year, and it is at least a 3-year high as well. What will be really interesting to see is, where will we look at, or how will inventory look like by mid-summer? Because in 2022, inventory absolutely skyrocketed due to rates doubling in less than 6 months. And we're not seeing that this year. Obviously, this year we're seeing basically a high level of rates for the long term, but not skyrocketing rates like we saw in 2022. So I would imagine that the difference between this year and 2022 is actually getting more narrow. So I'm curious to see what will happen for the remainder of the year, because I would imagine we'll probably see something like this maybe, where we actually get below 2022's levels, but still higher compared to 2023. Please leave me a comment below with your thoughts about this. In my opinion, this will all depend on, of course, how many people decide to list their house for sale, and also the direction of interest rates as well. Because we have this environment in which rates maintain at levels around 7% plus for an average 30-year fix. That should kind of take the winds out of the sails, or the wind out of the sails of our housing market, which will cause home buying demand to decrease. We'll see fewer home sales, and that will actually increase inventory levels as we continue to see more listings hitting the market. Now, speaking of new listings and pending sales, let's have a look at how each of the 50 most populous metros fared. So pending sales increased the most in San Jose, California, up by 18.4%. After that, we have San Francisco, San Diego, New York, New Jersey, and Columbus, Ohio. In contrast, 40 of the 50 biggest metros decreased year over year. So leading the nation was West Palm Beach, Florida, down 15.3%. After that was Atlanta, Houston, Phoenix, and Providence, Rhode Island, all down by more than 11% year over year. In contrast, new listings only decreased in 6 metros. Therefore, they increased in 44. compared to 12 months ago. So leading the nation was San Jose, California, up by 37%. Then we have Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, up by 26%, Phoenix, Seattle, and San Diego. In contrast, the biggest decreases of newly listed houses is Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Detroit, Virginia Beach, Virginia, Newark, New Jersey, and Warren, Michigan, rounding out the top 5. All right, let's move on and talk about some other metrics as well. Here's the month supply. We're still only at 3.2 months, a relatively low level of month supply nationwide. This implies we still have a seller's market in which sellers have an advantage over home buyers. At 3.2 months, this is at least a 3-year high though during the same time frame. So for example, back in 2022 and 2021, the month supply was only 2 months. Now it's at 3.2 months. Here's a look at the number of pending sales that went under contract within the first 2 weeks of the house being listed for sale. In other words, houses selling very quickly, 44.9% of the time. This is at least a 3-year low during the same time frame though, because look at 2022 in red. Back then, approximately 55% of all pending sales went under contract within the first 2 weeks of the house being listed for sale. So we're at low levels compared to the past few years. Regarding days in the market, this is also a 3-year high as well at 33 days. Back in 2022 at this time, it took about 20 days to sell a house. Now it's at 33 days. Additionally, over the past 4 weeks, 31% of the houses that did sell sold above the seller's final list price. This means, of course, that approximately 70% sold at or below the seller's final list price. And this, by the way, is at least a 3-year low as well. Back in the craziness of 2022, when we did reach all-time record highs back in May and June, then around 55% of houses that sold over the seller's asking price. Now it's only 31.3%. Let's take a look at the share price drops because that has been absolutely skyrocketing to say the least. The share price drops, according to Redfin, is at 6.4%. This has been skyrocketing ever since April. I mean, we're easily a 3-year high during the same time frame. Look at 2021. The share was at 2%. Now we're at 6.4%. Basically going straight up and actually getting very close to a 3-year high for any month because the share price drops peaked back in October, November of 2022 at around 6.5%. To me, this is telling us that we're going to see potentially a softening of home price growth in the months to come because we can't have, the share price reduction skyrocketing and have home prices reach all new record highs for months on end, right? We're seeing, basically overzealous home sellers in which they're asking for, way more than their house is worth. And because of that, we're seeing price drops absolutely skyrocketing right now. What we're also seeing as well on a national level is that on average for the houses that did sell over the previous 4 weeks, they sold for 0.5 percentage points less than the seller's final list price. That's at a ratio at 99.5%. I'm kind of sharing this trend compared to 2022 because again, in May and June of 2022, we reached all-time record highs, which makes sense because back then, on average, houses sold for 2.5 percentage points over the seller's final list price. Now it's actually less than the seller's asking price, at least a 3-year low during the same time frame. I mention that because one of the reasons or one of the impacts regarding home prices on a national level is this right here. This is from the National Association of Realtors. I made a video about this a few days ago regarding trends for inventory, sales, and prices on a national level according to NAR. But I want to kind of share this again because we're seeing more sales in the upper range of the market compared to sales in the lower range of the market. So the mix in sales is impacting overall the national median home sold price. So for example, out of all the houses that sold this April compared to April of 2023, for houses over $1 million, again, that closed, that was a giant increase of 39.7% year over year. For houses that sold in the range of $750 to $1 million, up by 24%. In contrast, in the lower range of the market, 100,000 to 250, small gain of 0.1%, and houses less than 100,000 decreasing by 7%. Again, I'll mention again that, this is not the only reason why we're seeing an increase in prices, but in my opinion, this is impacting overall the national trends and national numbers that Redfin and other sources are reporting. Lastly, let's have a look at Redfin's Home Buyer Demand Index. Like I shared with you guys, more or less flat from 1 month ago. And on top of that, down 11% from this time in 2023. What they did not mention though, is that their index is at least a 3-year low during the same time frame. So in other words, home buying demand still at relatively low levels. So what's your biggest takeaway from today's video? I'd love to hear from you guys. Please leave me a comment below. Also, if you guys have any insights regarding what's happening in your neck of the woods, I would love to hear from you guys because real estate is local. The trends I'm sharing in today's video, unless I was talking about the 50 most populous metros, of course, the trends in real estate is definitely local. So please leave me a comment below with your thoughts regarding what you're seeing in your neck of the woods. With that said, please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, if you guys got any value, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. Of course, I appreciate you. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.